Outstanding benefits of the Four Noble Truths. Besides incorporating the entire spectrum of Buddhist teachings, both theoretical and practical, the teaching of the Four Noble Truths provides many other benefits, which can be summarized as follows. It is a way of wisdom. It promotes the solving of problems according to a systematic and reasoned procedure. It is a classic model. Any effective, rational and practical method for solving problems must proceed consistent with the Four Noble Truths. It is a method for people to solve problems and manage their life by way of their own wisdom, by applying and benefiting from truths inherent in nature. One need not depend on divine, sacred or supernatural powers. They are truths relevant to everyone, no matter how broadly or extensively people engage with things. If they wish to have dignity and to relate to things effectively, they need to embrace and benefit from these truths. They are universal, timeless truths directly connected to human life, no matter what forms of technical knowledge or enterprises people create in order to solve problems and improve their lives, and no matter to what extent these forms of knowledge and activities prosper, decline, pass away, or are replaced by newer forms. The Four Noble Truths endure, are up to date, and can be applied to benefit one's life at all times. Distilling Buddhadhamma into the Four Noble Truths. Although it may appear that in many aspects the content and structure of Buddhadhamma differs from other scriptures and texts, in fact it accords with the original system of the Four Noble Truths taught by the Buddha. It does not diverge in any way. The chapters and sections of Buddhadhamma can be classified in accord with the Four Noble Truths as follows. Part 1, Middle Teaching, Majjena Dhamma Desana Dukkha. Section 1, Nature of Human Life. Chapter 1, 5 Aggregates. Chapter 2, 6 Sense Spheres. Section 2, Attributes of Life. Chapter 3, 3 Characteristics, Samudaya. Section 3, Process of Life. Chapter 4, Dependent Origination. Chapter 5, Kama Nirodha. Section 4, Goal of Life. Chapter 6, Nibbana, the Supreme Peace. Chapter 7, Awakened Beings. Chapter 8, Calm and Insight. Supplementary Material. Section 5, A Noble Life, Aryadhamma Viti. Chapter 9, The Supernatural and the Divine. Chapter 10, Buddhist Teachings on Desire. Chapter 11, Happiness. Part 2, Middle Way, Majjhima Patipada, Magga. Section 6, A Worthy Life. Chapter 12, Introduction to the Middle Way. Chapter 13, Virtuous Friendship. Chapter 14, Faith and Confidence. Chapter 15, Wise Reflection. Chapter 16, Path Factors of Wisdom. Chapter 17, Path Factors of Virtuous Conduct. Chapter 18, Path Factors of Concentration. Chapter 19, Conclusion, Four Noble Truths. Some of the material in Buddhadhamma may seem unusual, especially passages explaining unfamiliar terms like external instruction, paradho gosa, virtuous friendship, kalyana metta, and wise reflection, yoniso manasikara, are explanations of unique and unfamiliar aspects of common teachings, which are generally not found in other Dhamma books. These special terms and aspects, however, are frequently mentioned in the Tipitaka. It simply happens that in some time period, Buddhist scholars and teachers have no need or reason to emphasize them, and they therefore become less conspicuous. The reason this subject material has been included in this book is because now seems to be the right time to give special renewed importance to these terms and meanings. On the other hand, some people may remark that other teachings that I have emphasized and elaborated on in the past have not been given prominence in this text. Whatever the case may be, the author of this book is confident that the proportion of subject material in relation to special terms and aspects is close to the proportion contained in the Pali Canon, which is the original source of the principal Buddhist teachings. Appendix 1. Observations on the study of Buddhadhamma. A. Middle teaching, Majjhima Dhammadesana, the dynamics of nature. According to Buddhadhamma, regardless of whether a Buddha appears in the world or not, the truth exists in an objective way, following its own nature. The Buddha simply discovered this truth and revealed it to others. The gist of this truth is that things exist according to a natural causal process, a dynamic of causes and conditions. Those people who discern things as they truly are, rather than according to how they want them to be, gain insight into this objective truth. From this insight, they derive a comprehensive understanding of truth and a broad vision of phenomena. They arrive at true liberation, freed from both in regard to the mind. The mind is freed from suffering and from oppressive defilements, and is marked by peace and joy. And in regard to wisdom, they are liberated by way of thorough knowledge, gaining insight into pure, unadulterated truth. They are devoid of obstructive, distorting mental defilements, attaining an awakened, immediate understanding of truth. Their understanding is first-hand, it need not be relayed through someone else. This natural causal process manifests in many forms, as is outlined in the various laws of nature. Example, physical laws, utu niyama, and the law of karma, kama niyama, and the general laws of nature, dhamma niyama. A mode of physical conditionality, dynamics of the natural environment. Examples, the summit of Mount Kailash is very high, to the air is very cold, to it snows throughout the year. Mr. H gets stuck in the snow for a long time, to blood flow is reduced due to the cold temperatures, to inadequate blood reaches his fingers and toes, to his fingers and toes ache and become numb, to he suffers frostbite, to he is crippled. Be a mode of karmic conditionality on the level of the mind. Examples, a clock strikes 10 a.m. Mr. A prisoner whose time of execution has arrived, hears it, he experiences fear, to he is weak in the knees and unable to stand. Mr. B, a relative of the person killed by Mr. A, hears it, to his thirst for revenge is slaked, to he shouts with joy. Mr. C, another relative of the deceased, hears it. He is angry, but he reflects on human actions and their results, kama vipaka, and thus feels sadness. He is reserved and quiet. Mr. D, another prisoner about to be executed, hears it. He was previously afraid, but he considers the just deserts of his actions. He walks peacefully alongside the prison guard. C, mode of karmic conditionality on the level of the individual. Example: Mr. E swears at Mr. F. Mr. F whacks Mr. E over the head with a stick. Mr. E suffers a head wound. Mr. E takes a gun and shoots Mr. F. Mr. F is critically wounded, etc. D, mode of karmic conditionality on the level of society. Example: people harvest food that has grown naturally in nature. Some individuals hoard up this food. Others follow their example. People stake out personal property. People steal from others. Mutual accusations and violence. People recognize the need for social governance. A leader is elected. The origin of a king, etc. This outline follows the content in the Gana Sutta. Mode B. Karmic conditionality on the level of the mind has a unique characteristics. If one only looks at the external phenomena without referring to the qualities in the mind of these individuals, one is unable to explain the relationship between the cause and effect, i.e., the connection between hearing the bell from the clock and the consequent behaviour. If the conditions in the mind do not exist, the external behaviour does not arise. In modes C and D, the factors within an individual are also very important, but they are concealed or less conspicuous and tend to be overlooked. For instance, some people in such circumstances only notice the material or economic factors. Here, mode B has been placed aside these other modes in order to demonstrate the importance of external factors, which play a participatory role either in a supportive or conflicting way in these natural causal processes. Mode B is a constant and unavoidable dynamic in people's lives. It is initiated and its results are experienced exclusively by an individual. It is a vital and urgent matter which every person should come to grips with and gain mastery over within this lifetime, even if they are simultaneously trying to cope with other dynamics inherent in nature. B. Middle path. Majjhima Pada methods for practical application. The middle path or middle way refers to a way of living one's life with wisdom. Here one applies one's understanding of the objective truth outlined in the middle teaching, Majjhima Dhammadesana. Devoid of such understanding, one falls under the power of unhealthy desire, fosters vague ideas about how things should be, and entrusts one's happiness to craving. At the beginning of one's practice, before one has fully realized this truth, one relies on faith and on those beliefs that are in concord with the principle of causality. One is responsible for acting with reasoned discernment, and one seeks success through one's own volitional actions. This is the stage of mundane right view, Lokya Samaditi. On a higher level, when one has fully realized this truth, attained liberation and been freed from suffering and from the affliction by mental defilements, one abides with a complete and thorough insight into the nature of causality. This is the level of transcendent right view, Lokuttara Samadhi. Here one follows the Buddhist way of life, Brahmacharya-Dhamma. One lives the supreme life, Brahmacharya, and abides in harmony with Buddhadhamma. One walks the noble path, Arya-Magga, the noble way of the awakened ones, of solving life's dilemmas. There is an important distinction between awakened and unawakened individuals. The regular disposition of awakened beings is one of happiness and a freedom from suffering. Alternatively, one may say that awakened beings are released from suffering and have transcended happiness. Unawakened beings, on the other hand, must constantly pursue happiness because they possess a shortage of it, or they are assailed by suffering. The path leading to the end of suffering is comprised of 8 factors. These factors are presented as a threefold process of training and spiritual development. Sila, training and behaviour that fosters a virtuous society, which is supportive of a good quality of life for people and conducive to mind and wisdom development. Here one establishes a moral code, cultivates rectitude of body and speech, and engages in right livelihood. Samadhi, based on such a virtuous and conducive society, environment and lifestyle, one develops mental refinement, strength, capability and health. Panya, by way of such a favourable state of mind, one is able to cultivate wisdom, giving rise to a comprehensive understanding of cause and effect. One's actions are guided by this understanding until one reaches direct insight and liberation, abiding in constant ease and joy. This training and development relies on 2 supportive factors. Paratogosha, external factors linked to faith, favourable environmental influences, in particular virtuous friends, Kalyanamitta. Yoni so manasikara, internal factors linked to wisdom, skilled reflection, wise reflection. These various factors may be outlined as follows. Starting point, supports factors of right view. 1. Favourable external influences, Paratogosha. And 2. Wise reflection, Yoni so manasikara. And 2. Right view, Samadhi. To society, maybe 1. Higher virtue, Adisila. 2. Higher mind, Adicitta. 3. Higher wisdom, Adipanya. Process of training, threefold training, mind. 1. Higher virtue, Adisila. 2. Higher mind. 3. Higher wisdom. Wisdom, higher virtue, higher mind, higher wisdom, to cultivate right view and right thought. Old karma is defined as the 6 senses, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind, which act as the principal agents to start with on the spiritual path. From this point, spiritual training relies on external influences and instruction, Paratogosha, which may be summed up by the saying, people are shaped and moulded by their environment, and on wise reflection, Yoniso Manasikara, which may be summed up by saying, if one is skilled at reflection, one may achieve arahantship even by listening to the words of drunks and madmen. When one applies the method of detailed analysis, Vibhaja Vidi, those ethical quandaries that are difficult to solve. For instance, it is moral or immoral for a child to steal money in order to buy medicine. Is it moral or immoral for a child to steal money in order to buy medicine for his sick mother? Become clear and are no longer a cause for doubt and confusion. External influence on its own is insufficient for realizing the truth. Buddhadhamma, wise reflection, is the decisive factor. These two levels of right view reveal the range of human mental activity, which can be separated into two domains. One, wisdom, panya, insight, jnana, true knowledge, vidya, whereby ignorance, avidya, is severed. This is equivalent to transcendent right view, lokuttara samadhiti, and pertains to knowledge, truth, science, the principle of life, and natural laws. 2. Faith, sada, wholesome desire, chanda, compassion, karuna, whereby craving, tanha, is severed. This is equivalent to mundane right view, lokya samadhiti, and pertains to values, morality, practical arts, human behavior, individuality, and society. Note that from a broad perspective, the meaning of the term Buddhadhamma is restricted and does not encompass the entirety of Buddhism. The original term with an all-embracing meaning is Dhamma Vinaya. This volume discusses the Dhamma at length and is thus aptly titled Buddhadhamma, but it only briefly discusses the Vinaya. Perhaps there ought to be a companion volume to this text titled Arya Vinaya. 1. Dhamma teachings on truth and virtue pertaining to essential truths and principles. To matters discovered and revealed by the Buddha. They emphasize the internal spiritual life of an individual. They aim to solve and prevent personal problems and to foster internal growth. 2. Vinaya, codes of conduct and the establishment of such codes. The term Vinaya pertains to social systems and conventions, ways of practice according with the aforementioned principles, disciplinary precepts, and the laying down of laws. A Vinaya is an instrument for establishing a code of living or a social system that accords with the objectives of the Dhamma. One draws upon the essential principles of the Dhamma to set down a system of practice providing truly effective results amidst the truth of the tangible world. A Vinaya emphasizes external behavior, everyday life, one's society and environment, communal interrelationship, and one's responsibility to the common good. It aims to solve and prevent external problems and to foster communal prosperity. Appendix 2. Order of the chapters in the Thai edition of Buddhadhamma. Part 1, Middle Teaching, Majjhana Dhammadesana, Section 1, Nature of Human Life, Chapter 1, 5 Aggregates, Chapter 2, 6 Sense Spheres, Section 2, Attributes of Life, Chapter 3, 3 Characteristics, Section 3, Process of Life, Chapter 4, Dependent Origination, Chapter 5, Karma, Section 4, Goal of Life, Chapter 6, Vijja, Vimutti, Visuddhi, Santi, Nibbana. Chapter 7, Types and Levels of Nibbana and Awakened Beings. Chapter 8, Auxiliary Material, Samatha Vipassana, Ceto Vimutti, Panya Vimutti. Chapter 9, Essential Principles of Realizing Nibbana. Chapter 10, Summary of Nibbana. Part 2, Middle Way, Majjhima Patipada. Section 5, Worthy Life. Chapter 11, Introduction to the Middle Way. Chapter 12, Forerunner to the Middle Way, Number 1. Virtuous Friendship. Chapter 13, Forerunner to the Middle Way. Number 2, Wise Reflection. Chapter 14, Path Factors of Wisdom. Chapter 15, Path Factors of Virtuous Conduct. Chapter 16, Path Factors of Concentration. Chapter 17, Conclusion, Four Noble Truths. Part 3, Methods for Realizing the Truth of the Noble Ones or Way of Life, of those endowed with noble qualities. Buddhadhamma Vieti. Section 6, A Noble Life. Chapter 18, Auxiliary Chapter Number 1, Essential Conduct and Virtues of Noble Beings. Chapter 19, Auxiliary Chapter 2, Social Objectives of Moral Conduct. Chapter 20, Auxiliary Chapter 3, The Supernatural and the Divine. Chapter 21, Auxiliary Chapter Number 4, The Buddhist Teachings on Desire. Chapter 22, Auxiliary Chapter Number 5, Happiness, Doctrinal Analysis. Chapter 23, Auxiliary Chapter Number 6, Happiness, Practical Analysis.